Hey, good. It is 9:50 in the evening here in Uganda, Africa. And this is my first broadcast, video, whatever you want to call it, um, from what I fondly call the motherland. So, if you guys out there who don't know me, I'm Bob Gums, and I have a show called the Concerning Forum. Now, that is a show that I had in New York at the Manhattan Neighborhood Network. All praise to them. And let me tell you what happened. You might find this interesting. You might not. Let's see. I'm a native New Yorker, born and raised, Catholic school educated. Yeah, St. Thomas the Apostle, South Academy. And that for the 10 months I spent at Seward Park down in the Lower East Side. Let me see. I joined the military when I was 17. I just walked out of school. Look, I just walked out. And I said, the hell with it. Originally, I wanted to join the Navy, but the Navy didn't have a recruiting office in Harlem at that time. Oh, by the way, excuse the blank wall behind me. All right. Like I said, we're just starting to set up here. Um, we had one place for about, what, 2, 3 weeks. And then fortunately, we found this a much nicer apartment. And, I still have to get my bookshelf set up and some pictures, all that good stuff. But anyway, as I was saying, I went in the military when I was 17, joined the Army. And I did that for a couple of years. A very traumatic time, because we're talking about the early 70s. I went in just a few years after Martin Luther King was assassinated. So, as you can imagine, it was a pretty trying time. And I left. I left under good auspices, honorably discharged. And I started going to college. Went down to Virginia. Went to college down there for a bit. Came back to New York. And I decided that I missed the military at that time and I wanted to go back. Wanted to go back in the Marine Corps, but unfortunately the recruiter was busy engaged in personal business. His wife, they were having their first child. So this lovely Irish American lass uh, guided me to join the Navy. I think that was the best thing I ever did. It was one hell of an education. And I saw a lot of the world. I had a chance to learn about how government really works. Did time on 2 aircraft carriers, USS Nimitz, USS Saratoga. On the Saratoga, I was in a fighter squadron, Strike Fighter Squadron 81, uh, based out of Jacksonville, Florida, which was another experience. And I spent almost 5 years at the White House, the Pentagon. Um, I was able to get a top secret clearance. I was an intelligence technician, and I learned a lot. But one of the things that bothers me about a lot of these big mouths that get on TV, I guess they call themselves talking heads, and they shoot their mouth off about Israel, about Iran, about this and that. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Trust me, they don't. Okay? I have what you call a cosmic top secret SBI clearance. All right, which means basically what it means is same stuff the president sees, I can see. And yes, I was not an officer, I was an NCO, junior NCO at that. But that's how the Pentagon and the military side of the White House actually runs. Unless you believe that 3-star and 4-star generals and admirals type up their own correspondence. Doesn't work that way. Okay. It didn't work that way back in the 80s. I'm quite sure it still doesn't work. It works the same way now. Okay. So when I talk about foreign policy and subjects like that, I know what the hell I'm talking about. And because of my experience actually being out on the water, as they say, I know what the hell I'm talking about. I know how it feels. I know how it feels to be proud. I know how it feels to be frightened. And I know how it feels to be sad. Most of your talking heads don't have that experience. Okay, so where are we? Well, I don't know if I mentioned this. I'm a native New Yorker, born and raised. And some of you out there, if you look real close, you might find, or you might say to yourself, hey, that knucklehead on the video there looks familiar. And you would be right. My father was very active in Republican Party politics in Harlem. He even ran for the assembly. He worked with the youth. He had 5 different athletic teams. In Columbia Field at Columbia University's Morningside Park. And as a matter of fact, my picture is in Columbia University in their athletic department. Yeah. The big-headed, big-headed kid. And I think it was the first or second row. Yeah. And I also spent a lot of time at Riverside Church and Yeshiva University, even though I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school. But that's what New York was about in the 60s and early 70s. So, what does that mean? Well, what that means is that I believe that Brother Mamdami is the person to be our next mayor. Now, how should I put this? I'm a registered Democrat. I have been one for quite some time, although I have to admit I have voted Republican in my life. But, just like with my dad, that was a different Republican Party. We don't have a Republican Party now, by the way. What we have, what is the word that they use? Nice fancy word. I'm trying to think of it so I can make myself sound like I'm intelligent. Embryonic. What we have now is an embryonic fascist movement that has taken the place of the Republican Party. Now, I understand that, some people, because I know Mamdami is a democratic socialist. I signed up, so I guess you could say I'm a member also of the New York Democratic Socialist Party. New York uh, Democratic Socialist Party, yeah. And, oh, by the way, I'm living in Uganda right now. I'm getting ready to marry a Ugandan girl next month. Quite happy. Um, I'm amazed why any young beautiful woman would have geezer like me for a husband. But that tells me her heart is in the right place. Anyway, and the funny thing is, I didn't know this when I came over here, but Mr. Mamdami is from here, from Uganda, in Kampala, as a matter of fact. And I find that to be very interesting and very wonderful. And I have seen some of the flack that he has raised with the main, well, naturally with Trump and his fellow fascist Republicans, but also, unfortunately, with these so-called mainstream Democrats like Cuomo and some of these other people. I'm kind of wondering about our governor of New York there. I'm really not quite sure where her head is at. I wonder if she's sure where herself where her head is at. And I find that a bit dispiriting. You know, one of the problems that we have in America is the fact that many of our people are so uneducated. And now we have a president that brags about the fact that he attracts mostly non-college people. Now, I'm not a snob, don't get me wrong. Um, hey, I got a bachelor's degree myself. I have some time towards a master's degree in international relations, but I will always be that kid out of the Grant Projects in Manhattan. But, you know, the thing is that with Trump, we're not pushing our brightest. You know, we're pushing the idea that the dumber you are, or the less knowledgeable that you are, let me put it that way, the less knowledgeable that you are, the more American you are. And that's not, it ain't meant to be that way, folks. I'm sorry. You know, me, myself personally, I have a tendency to follow the more educated folks, all right? Um, If that makes me a snob or an elitist, so be it. Although I seriously doubt anybody that knows me, knows my family, the last thing we would be called is elitist. We might be called a bunch of other things, but elitist ain't one of them. And I'm really sad because, you know, Cuomo had his chance. He kind of screwed it up with his behavior. I'm not going to chase after a man because of the fact that he had certain, how shall we say, incidents with the opposite sex. I don't like to get into, you know, personalities like that. However, it did apparently something did happen. We couldn't debate if he handled it the right way, the wrong way. But let's just say that with a president that's a convicted sex offender, I just don't think that people that have been touched with that brush, I don't think that, you know, in terms of public office, I don't think it's helpful. Okay, number one. Number two, um, I lived in New York during the COVID time. I think the governor did some good things. I think that he might have done some things that were not helpful. I disagree about, you know, what happened with the Second Avenue subway because I'm partially disabled. I'm a disabled vet, and it's very difficult getting around New York. And I think that we need more transportation options. Number one, I think that we do definitely need more affordable transportation options. And I think that when it comes to Mr. Mamdami, you know, I think that he is being crucified by the mainstream because of one thing primarily. He said something that needed to be said. And I don't know who in the hell these people were, because I saw that debate. Oh yeah, yeah. The world pays attention to what happens in New York. And at the debate, when he was asked, where would you go first after you're elected? Now, in the Navy, we say that there's no such thing as a stupid question. Sometimes I kind of doubt, I don't necessarily agree with that. Because for a bunch of news commentators to ask people who are running for mayor of New York, where would you go after you first got elected? I think that's a dumbass question. I'm sorry. You know, you're running to be mayor of New York, which means that you are running to take care of the issues, the problems, and the people of New York. So why the hell are you going to ask somebody, where would you go? And Mamdami gave the correct answer. I ain't going nowhere, he says. You make me mayor, I'm going to stay here and try and fix the crap that's wrong with New York. Now, to me, that's a very logical response. But quite frankly, he said the intelligent, the logical thing, and the whole the whole mainstream world wants to, I don't know, drop a building on his head. And that shows me that there are a lot of people that really don't have the interest of working New Yorkers at heart. I mean, they could have asked him, well, listen, why do you think that your proposal is going to work for the people of New York? I could dig that. They could have said, why do you think this whole food, government city thing for these 5 food places you want to open up in the 5 boroughs, why do you think that's a good idea? I mean, whether you agree with that or not, that's a proper question. Because we're talking about food for the people of New York. Affordable food, healthy food, so on and so forth. And yeah, that's a good question. But what in the hell? Why would you ask somebody, look, I'm going to be the mayor of Buffalo. So why the hell are you going to ask me, well, when you get elected, where are you going to go? Listen, if I wanted to go somewhere, I would go there and I wouldn't run for the mayor of Buffalo. And that's the same thing with New York. And, you know, I don't know, man. I moved over here to Uganda back in June. And I did it because things were so bad in New York. And quite frankly, I got so sick of seeing fellow veterans, fellow New Yorkers living on the street, or if they were fortunate to have a place with a roof over their heads, basically struggling for survival, like desperate animals. And I got sick of it. And I wanted to do something. I got an idea about putting up a media thing, right, that will actually help people. I want to serve as a bridge between America, in particular New York, and Africa. I know it sounds crazy, but it's an idea. Isn't that what's being American, being New York? Isn't that what it's all about? You get an idea and you want to give it a shot. I mean, I may well fall flat on my face, look like a jerk. Who knows? But I want to try it. And I didn't think that I would be able to try it in New York. So I came, quote unquote, to the motherland. And I said, I'll give it a shot. But I tell you one thing, here in Uganda, Kampala, it's like a cross section of the world. It's like a small cross section of the world. You got people from the rest of Africa, you got people from Arabia, Europe, you got a lot of Brits here. And you damn well have a lot of Chinese folks here, right? And they're all looking, man, reading the paper, looking at the, YouTube and what have you. And they say, damn, what the hell is going on with America? What's wrong with people back there? And I asked the same question. What the hell is wrong with people back there? This young guy says, hey, I want to be mayor of New York. Hey, I want to be able to make sure that people have a roof over their heads. I want to make sure that people, that they can get food, decent food, healthy food. I want to make sure that they're able to, if they're lucky enough that to get a job, that they're able to go to and from that job without it taking a whole big hunk out of their weekly, their weekly finances. What the hell is wrong with that? I don't understand. Why is it that when somebody says, listen, I want to do something to help people making less than like 100 grand a year. Why is he, he's a communist, he's a socialist, he's anti-American, he's not a real Democrat. What's wrong with people? I don't get it. I really don't. Now, you got Cuomo, right? He's a nice guy, but I think maybe his time has passed. Hey, look at me. I'm talking about people's time has passed. I'm over 65 and I'm talking about whose time has passed. But what I am saying is, as far as, being a mayor and stuff like that, no, that's me. I don't see it. Now you got Adams, brother man, and I tell you, I'm very disappointed in brother Adams. I know he won the election to be mayor and blah blah blah. Former police, captain. Okay, I'm from Harlem. He's from Brooklyn, right? But see, he finds caught in the cookie jar, and what does he do? He runs to probably the most racist ass president this country has seen since Woodrow Dammit Wilson. And he goes to him to appeal for protection. Trump, and see, this is what bothers me about what I see in America, the way that we normalize deviance. Trump is a convicted criminal, okay? I've been in 3 branches of the service: Army, Navy, Army Reserve. Oop, I'm telling the untruth. Army, Navy, Army Reserve, and Army National Guard. Okay? I could not get Donald Trump in any of the branches of the military because of his record, right? I definitely could not get him a security clearance, right? So he winds up being president. That's one of the downsides of our Constitution. There's no qualification to be president of the United States. You could be a criminal, you could be a check kiter. It just doesn't make a difference, right? That's cool, right? That's one of the things that, as an American, I have to accept. But that doesn't mean that you have to hang out with this guy, right? That doesn't mean that you have to go on bended knee asking for a favor. Hey, listen, they're investigating me. Can you get your Justice Department to get them off my back? Wait a minute. You're my mayor? Come on. This is, where is your legitimacy? It's gone. So then you're going to turn around and you're going to attack a man like Mamdami, whose real crime, he's got 2 crimes, right? He's got two strikes against him. He says that if he's elected, he doesn't want to go anywhere. He wants to stay in New York and do the job of being a mayor. That's number one. Number two, he wants to help people. He wants to help people making less than 100,000 a year. And for that, he's castigated. You can't go with that. And something else that bothers me too about this whole thing that I don't like. You know, you hear some people say, "Oh, well, he's not doing as well with blacks in New York." Well, listen, let me tell you something. And I know some of my brothers and sisters there are going to they might take this the wrong way. They might take it hard. You know, one of the great things about being over 65 is that for some reason you just don't have the urge to try and bullshit and lie and do a little song and dance. I mean, if you're like me, you know, you basically feel like, hey, man, look, I'm going to tell like it is. I don't give a damn. So that's what I'm going to do, right? Listen, black Americans in New York and in the rest of the country, all right, we deserve an Oscar, we deserve a Nobel Prize because we have endured some of the most blatant brutality, hatred, racism. I'm not crying that, oh, pity me because I'm black. Read a goddamn history book, okay? But one of the things, especially nowadays, I don't know, you have a lot of, especially younger black people, that get on the stage and they do what I call a lot of cooning, right? Like that guy that makes these movies where all black men get up, get dressed, they dress up like women, and the men who are still look like men in the shows, they're terrible people, terrible role models. Was it Medea, that kind of crap. And there's other guys, a loudmouth. I think he's still on ESPN. Um, loud guy. He likes to talk about a lot of stuff that he has no idea what the hell he's talking about. Okay? And I'm not even going to go deep into the whole thing about that clown in South Carolina. Had black senator, basically who the MAGA and the Trump administration has made him look like a jerk. What the hell's that guy's name? I can't think of his name right now, but you know what I'm talking about. Skinny boy in the black beard. And not to mention that clown in Florida is a congressman. I believe he came out of Brooklyn, as a matter of fact. You know, and I'm like, where the hell are these people? What rock did they crawl from under? You know, and I don't know. They seem to be more interested in playing for the system than in actually trying to come up with things that really help African Americans. But anyway, these are the type of people that I think would be out to condemn Mr. Mamdami. They don't know what the hell socialism really means. Just a quick example. You flush your own toilet, right? You like the idea of having a sewer, Department of Waste, sewer, and what have you? Well, that's socialism. Because that means that what we can't do as individuals, we have a government, right? We work together to have a government that takes care of those things for us. The idea of having a police department is socialist, right? Why? Because if somebody does me wrong, the regular human way, I want to get my piece and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try and blow somebody's head off for doing me or my family wrong. But we don't do that because we have a government which supposedly is of us, represents us, they take care of law enforcement, right? It's not an individual thing. See? And that's basically what socialism means. Doesn't mean that you're going to come and take over my house and, throw me out in the street and move in about 50 other people. No, 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 no. We're not talking about communism here. It's a big difference. But if you never read a damn book, then you're going to be quite happy spouting a lot of nonsense. Okay? And that's another part of what they're trying to do with Mamdami. Now, personally, here in New York, I don't think we've had decent black leadership since Allen Clayton Powell. And if that name is not familiar with you, is not familiar to you, then you really need to sit down, shut up, and go to the library and do some reading, quite frankly. Okay? Looking at Harlem now, looking at New York now, I think it's pathetic, quite frankly. Veterans in the street, having to live in the street. And as you can probably tell, that's a big thing with me, being a veteran, being a disabled veteran. And Mr. Mamdami says that he has ideas that might be able to help solve that problem. I think we need to let him try. I'm not a religious person anymore. Like I said, I was raised Catholic, used to be an altar boy at St. Thomas the Apostle. As I've gotten older, I think I've gotten more spiritual. Um, I don't condemn preachers, but I do feel that some politicians have been able to basically use preachers for their own means. And I think that's one of the problems that we have in this upcoming mayoral election. My spirituality tells me that the basis of what being a Jew or a Christian or a Muslim is all about is the things that we do to help our fellow man. I don't see that coming out of the opponents of Mr. Mamdami. Now, I hear people saying, "Oh, well, his ideas won't work," and blah 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 blah. Well, guess what? Um, some of them might not. I don't know. I don't have a damn crystal ball. I can't see the future. But I think after all the bullshit that we have gone through over these last 15 years or so, I say give the guys, give him a chance. All right. It definitely cannot be any worse than what we have now. A city that people cannot afford to live in. I mean, come on. Constantly rising transportation costs and what have you. Food deserts in New York City for decent, healthy people. Come on, man. We have to get away from this idea that anything that doesn't have a price tag on it doesn't work. That's not true. That's not true. So listen, I don't. Let me try and wrap this up. I think that if you really care about New York City, I think that you will give Mr. Mamdami a shot. I truly believe it. Listen, we live in a country where we are under an administration that says, hey, working class people, I'm not even going to call this middle. I'm not even call it middle class, right? Because we are killing the middle class. So let's just say working class people. We are going to go after your Social Security, right? And then they say, we are going to go after your health insurance, right? And then they say, we are going to go, as we saw in Texas, we are going to go after the federal government's ability to keep you alive in the event of a natural disaster. Now, I don't give a damn if you don't believe in what we progressives say is the causes of climate change. I don't give a crap. All right. I believe in facts. Facts are our weather patterns are getting worse and worse. They've been getting like that since the 80s, right? When I was at the Pentagon, they were giving classes about how the climate emergency affects America's military stand, okay, especially in the Middle East. That's what happened in Syria, right? These huge droughts, people running into the cities looking for food, looking for work, because where they lived at was dried up, right? So whether you agree on the causes or not, climate change is real. So you're going to tell me at a time when it's like every other month, damn it, Oregon's on fire, California's on fire, Washington State's on fire, right? There's flooding here, there's flooding there. You know, there's over 100 and some odd people known dead from the floods in Texas. And they still looking for what? About another 100 some odd people missing. Why in the hell would you talk about killing FEMA, right? Killing the National Weather Service with all this going on? This is the kind of environment that we're living in. So why in the hell you got a guy, you got this guy Mamdami coming up here saying, well, listen, these are the things that, I have in mind to help people weather these bad times. Why are you going to attack him? I don't get that. I really don't. That shows me that the people who are doing the attacking, there's something wrong with them. And the so-called moderate or mainstream Democrats that are doing the attacking, there's something wrong with them. Now, let's get real. The majority of Democrats in the base, they don't like mainstream Democrats. What is it, like over 62%? There's a reason for that. Because the mainstream feels that these so-called mainstream Democrats, and we're talking about the House Minority Leader and people of that sort, right, don't really give a damn about them. Because they're too interested in their wealthy, like AIPAC, all these other donors and what have you. And they forget that the average American, Democrat or Republican, they just want to live. For the love of God, they just want to live. Mamdami has some ideas. I think that we have an obligation as Americans, as New Yorkers, as human beings, to give the man a chance. Let's see, let's check it out. Nobody's going to try and set up a Soviet republic. But maybe some more kids might get fed. And maybe some more people might not have to wind up sleeping in the streets or sleeping in, like where you store your goods, storage, you know, storage places and what have you, or in your car, in their cars and what have you. Let's try it. And no, it can't hurt. No. Because at the rate we're going, not just in New York, but in the rest of the country, no, it can't hurt. I'm sorry. I don't believe that. I like to say that I grew up in New York when New York was New York. That's not the case now. People shouldn't have to live like the way people live in now in New York. I support Mamdami, and I hope that you do also. Listen, this is Bob Gums with the Concerned Forum, and I do apologize because I'm not. How should I say? I don't have the fancy bells and whistles yet. I just have a blank wall behind me. But I felt that it was urgent that I speak to you. Um, I hope that DSA finds what I'm saying credible and that they use it and they spread it around. And, geez, what the hell else can I say? Yeah. And, oh, by the way, for, what's his name? The cat with, not Adams, the other one. I guess he's running as a Republican. The Guardians. Hey, man, I remember what he did back in the day, riding the subways, vigilante, fighting crime and everything like that. Um, that was cool. I respect that. I really do. But that's a different time now. Um, the problems that we're facing in New York and the rest of the country, they're a lot different. Okay, I remember when they patrolled the subways and the streets. Um, it was a good thing to do. It really was. But that's not the cure for what we're going through now. This is a whole different thing. The reason is because we let things get so out of hand. And I'm going to say something, and I know I'm going to catch hell for this, but hey, like I say, I'm over 65. I don't give a crap. White working class folks, um, God, I love you. I went to school with you. I mean, I went to high school. Everybody was Irish or Italian, right? South German. You know, I know where your heads are at, okay? And I feel you. But you have made the same mistake that your Southern fellow citizens down South have made for decades, and that is that you vote against your own interests for fear that somehow that would make you more, okay, how should I say, more like Black Americans and Hispanics, right? No, it doesn't make you more like us. It makes you more concerned about your life. Okay? The biggest political problem that Americans have had is that many of us, especially those of us in the working class, we vote for people who vote when they get to Congress, right? They vote against our basic interest. And that's one of the main reasons. I mean, besides, AI and automation and globalization and blah, blah, blah. No, the main thing is that you vote against your own interests because somewhere inside you have listened to this garbage so long about if you vote a certain way, that makes you a socialist or a communist or, God forbid, sympathetic to black people and brown people. Well, guess what? I know you might find this strange, but black and Hispanic people, they have some of the strange habits that you do. They like being able to sleep with a roof over their head. They like being able to be paid a fair wage for a fair day's work. How about that? Right? And they also have dreams for their children, just like you do. So you don't have to feel funny or ashamed because you vote for people that tell you, hey, I want to help you. Okay? There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing un-American about that. Hence, we go back to Mr. Mamdami. Oh, and one other thing. In America, now I have some big bones to pick with the founding fathers, right? But I will be the first one to tell you, they got some things right, okay? We don't have any religious qualifications running for public office. And I have heard a lot of stuff from people talking about, oh, well, Mamdami is a Muslim. He's a Muslim extremist. He's anti-Semitic. All that good stuff. No, 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 no. Come on. Come on, use your freaking head, especially in New York, for God's sake. New York, especially, like I say, New York of all places, we're all immigrants, either willingly or unwillingly. We're immigrants, okay? And we should respect a kid out of an immigrant background as one of our own. End of story, okay? I don't want to hear this crap about anti-Semitism, all right? Look, and I have to say this, I've been to Israel, Palestine a few times when I was in the Navy. Look, I don't agree with what America is doing, okay? I don't agree that it's a good thing for peace to slaughter thousands of children. I don't agree with that, right? If that makes me a bad guy, then so be it. But our whole foreign policy posture in that part, and well, damn, I'm over here now. So our whole foreign policy posture in this part of the world is wrong. Okay? But because I feel that way, it does not make me any less of an American. Okay? Just like because Mr. Mamdami says that his first job upon being elected mayor is to see what's going on with New York, that doesn't make him a bad guy. Okay? I know anti-Semitism. I was stationed in Mississippi. I was stationed in North Florida. I know anti-Semitism. One of the reasons I left active duty with the Navy is not to go too deep into it, was because of the anti-Semitic anti-Semitic and anti-Hispanic tropes that I was subjected to on a daily basis, right? And I loved the Navy. If I had to go, somebody told me, you're going back in the Navy, I would say, yippee, I love it. But at that particular time in my life, I couldn't handle that. And I left and I went into the reserve. So I don't need anybody lecturing me about anti-Semitism. But they are trying to use that against Mr. Mamdami, and that's wrong. I think that we have gotten away from a lot of the basic principles that founded this country. And I don't like to see that kind of crap being used in the campaign that might determine whether people could have a home or have a decent meal or be able to go from point A to point B without having to go broke. That's what concerns me. If Mr. Mamdami was an anti-Semite, I'd drop him like a hot rock. But I don't believe that that is the case. And I'm sick and tired of mainstream Democrats trying to throw that up in his face. And really, that's all I have to say on that particular part of this conversation. But I think it's time that people realize that we have some serious problems in this country. And I think the so-called two-party system, if they don't get serious and really try to solve these problems, I fear for the future of this country. You know, you talk about the French Revolution, the other revolutions. Basically, you know what the revolution is? The revolution is that you have pushed people up against the wall so damn hard that they just say the hell with it. I don't give a damn what happens to me. I'm going to tear this system down. And that's the mistake that many Americans made uh, when they voted for Donald Trump. Now I know I'm going from the local in New York to the national, but it's part of the same thing. Oh, by the way, that dog that you hear barking, that's my neighbors. We got dogs here in abundance in Uganda and Kampala, okay? But seriously, um, I think it's time that the American electorate, not just talking about New York, I think it's time that we mature and we really sit down and take a good look at ourselves. One of the advantages, I miss New York. Oh God, I miss a good omelet, right? I miss a good pizza, a good slice of pizza. And I love Uganda, but I tell you something, they don't make a pizza worth a damn compared to what we got in Manhattan. I'm sorry, okay? And I miss it, I really do. But one of the good things about living overseas, it's just like, you know what they say, you can't see yourself. You have to be outside. People outside are a better judge of who you are than you are yourself. And being outside, looking at what's going on in America, looking at what's going on in New York, baby, we in bad shape. Okay? We in bad shape. And we need to get real. I think that Mr. Mamdami is what New York City needs. And I will go out on a limb and say I think that what Mr. Mamdami is trying to offer, I think the whole country needs. Think I'm bullshitting? Ask those poor people who are no longer with us down there in Texas Ask them what they feel about austerity and cutbacks. Yeah? Think about that. Think about that. We live in a country where our representatives, or at least half of them, are trying to destroy working class people. And unfortunately, our so-called, many of our so-called moderate or mainstream Democrats, uh, I don't know, they don't seem like they want to stand up to this. So look, cut this short, I support Mamdami. I hope you do too. You know, I'm not a political plug or anything like that, right? I'm a kid out of the Grant Projects. I know New York. It's in my blood, right? You cut me, I'm going to bleed 125th Street. And I say that Mamdami is the right man, the right person for the times that we're living in New York. Listen, I want to thank you for having the patience to put up with me. I do apologize for the blank wall behind me. It's getting late here in the evening, and I'm not blow dried and, hair curled and, properly afroed or what have you, okay? But this whole thing has just gotten to me. And even though I'm far away from New York and home, I'm here. I feel it. I feel you. All right? The streets you walk in Manhattan and in the Bronx, those are my streets. Okay? I was born in those streets. I was raised in those streets. That was my first home. And I'm not going to forget that. And I hope that you guys stand by Mamdami. He's good people. Like we used to say in the service. He's good people. Listen, I am going to have a drink, have a meal, and go and speak with my lady and have a good night's sleep. And I pray for you. I pray that we all get through this as Americans, as New Yorkers, and you take care. God bless you. Take care.